11 years ago, I made a decision out of survival mode, and it's haunting me till today. I accepted a low-paid desk job instead of pursuing some crazy creative idea of mine, or instead of just simply staying in the uncertainty of being unemployed and having no job for a bit longer.
I'm thinking about quitting my job.
And this week, after 11 years, I woke up with this sense of relief and internal freedom, and again, the fire in me to rebuild and change my life. I finally realized that it's not the job and that my paycheck does not equal my worth.
My job, I love my job, I love my job.
If your 9 to 5 feels like a jail you need to break from, you need to learn to untie yourself from the wrong thing. And that's why I'm sharing my journey, just to tell you or whomever needs to hear this what I've learned along the way of wanting to quit every job. And when you come to this point that you maybe have tried multiple jobs, but you always felt like quitting,
Doing something else, like anything else, like any other job in the entire world.
realize that the most important thing is your sense of identity. And that's why we're endlessly trying to optimize, uplevel, and change our lives. All that we do shapes our identity. And then social media comes in with another trend, with another idea, what you are supposed to be doing. And so it's presenting you some kind of extreme. Like, be a boss babe, have a business, be an entrepreneur, be a trad wife, be an influencer. Like, who you even are if you're not one of those things these days. Who are you if you are working for someone in a 9 to 5? Let me know if I'm the only one or you feel this too, that you feel left behind just because you don't have that niche idea, that purpose that you build your life on. So let's learn how to untie your self-worth from your job. And that's not just for all of you who are actually feeling proud of their careers. Imagine you're a firefighter and you're saving lives. Once you're done with your job, you retire, or let's say maybe you need to change your jobs and maybe you start working at a desk. Should you feel ashamed that you're no longer saving lives? Should you be still recalling the past and telling everybody, well, but I was saving lives? You know what I mean? Like, you cannot be ashamed for what you do. It's just that part of your life as of now, and no job can prove your worth no matter how gracious it is. And you need to start to build your identity on who you are, how you treat others, and living your values. You can have an average or even a significant career that you're very proud of, you feel good, but sometimes it feels like it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes it gets you on your knees. Sometimes you lose your patience and you're like, if I just could give up my job.
I hate it. I hate my job. I hate it.
I found myself in the exact same spot because my career is of no significance. It's averagely good. Like, I'm kind of well paid. I am satisfied. I like my colleagues, but it also feels that what I do is totally meaningless. And the fear behind and the guilt I would feel just behind the idea of being unemployed is so hard, or was so hard on me, that I just couldn't stop working. Like, even if I would build my savings account to the number I always wanted, I just couldn't, because I would feel useless, as if I'm not contributing to the society, if I'm not being this decent human being having a job. So if no one told you yet, please let me tell you, you are worthy as you are. And you don't need to prove it with your job or status. For years, I would despise if someone would ask me, so what do you do? What do you do for a living? What's your job? And then I would go to the self-denial and I would actually pretend that, I'm happy with my job. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. And I would secretly sweat, and then I would go into depression once I would be home. And it's one of the first questions when we are firstly interacting with someone new, right? Like, what do you do? What's your job? Learn how to answer that question. For your own well-being, learn how to answer that question, how to change the subject of the conversation. Maybe you can talk about your hobbies, about what you're learning, about your goals, about your values, and be genuinely interested in the other person as well. Because I think that's what we are lacking in today's world that we're somehow lost this genuine interest about others as human beings, and we're just asking what they do, how much profit they make, if they're successful, if they're happy with what they do. I mean, come on. This world was not built on the creative freedom. If someone wanted to be an artist back in the days, they were usually on the corner of a society. It wasn't always glorified to be different. And so then everyone need to make a living, and so they got regular jobs. So learn how to answer this question without flooding in shame, just for yourself. Or maybe it's really hard for you to imagine who would you be without your job. So that's another thing to deal with. We all have feelings, a lot of feelings during the day, and it's usually very important with what feeling are we starting the day and with what feeling are we closing the day. And if we are preparing for a job, commuting to a job, spending time there, then returning and ruminating of what was happening there, what was stressful, we are accepting this as our reality. But let me tell you, feelings are information. Should you act on every piece of information? No. Should you ignore every piece of information? Also not. But because it has such a big influence on your life, try to review what feelings are you currently missing. Because likely it's not going to happen that your job is going to become less stressful or less depressing or whatever you feel right now. But what you can do is ask yourself, what are you missing? And when I was asking this question to myself, I realized there's no joy in my job. As I said, it's averagely good. I like my colleagues. I actually like what I do, but I don't enjoy it. Like, I don't enjoy building another Excel sheet for the leadership to approve. I don't enjoy endless back and forth with some other department that doesn't understand what we need. And I understand that I am exposed to lots of learning, critical thinking, being creative, figuring out what I need to do, but there's no joy. So when I found it out, I was like, okay, I need to live my joy somewhere else. But at least somewhere in my life, I need to feel it, because otherwise I am dying inside, and that's why I feel like I need to quit my job. So do something silly, something spontaneous, have some fun, just ease it up a little bit where you can outside of your job to find that balance so you don't go crazy.
How did this happen? I thought you had this all planned out. Do you want me to cry? Is that what you want?
And if you feel like you gained your spark over the weekend and then on Wednesday you don't even know who you are, that's another lesson to learn. Don't wait for the weekend.
And of course I'll have the weekend.
What is a weekend?
And same with vacation. Don't think about it as this future money you're gonna have once there are gonna be layoffs or once you're gonna quit the job. I was doing that for years. I was so depleted, so running on empty. So again, this year I flipped it totally. I looked at the whole year and I planned intentionally, when am I going to take at least extended weekends, a few days off, and 1 week of full vacation. And that's not because I can afford it. That's not because I'm going to Bahamas. You don't have to go there. But I was actually doing a staycation. I've never done that in my life, and I thought, okay, let's see if that's gonna be fun. And you know, the most fun part was the relax. I didn't open my laptop for work. I was doing what I needed to do or what I wanted to do. I just intentionally spent the time with myself. So plan the damn vacation because it's yours, and plan not only the weekend, but some kind of relaxing time through the week so you recharge a bit.
What? Do you have a plan? I don't even have a plan.
If your weekends look like this, come on, please make a plan. Schedule for something you really love. Your body, mind, and spirit will thank you. And then there's this systematic approach I want to share with you because I needed to figure it out during the years when I failed at getting a hobby. I'd be a person who would always say that I have no hobbies. And inevitably, I would spend all my free time at work, with friends, or somehow avoiding myself. I didn't even let myself to be bored, or I didn't even think of how I can figure out would I actually want or love to spend my time on. And as a recovering people pleaser, as someone who was always investing their time into others, I have to tell you, you gotta get a hobby. And not just some kind of hobby, but an activity that you really love. So even for you, if you think you have no hobby, come on. Let's break this down into 3 categories, and I recommend you to get at least 2 of the 3. The first one is some kind of wellness hobby. Like if you are working behind a desk, or if you're sitting at work or standing the whole day, you gotta get your body moving. Again, it will thank you. Like, why are you working in the first place? You want to have that freedom after work, and you will need a functional vessel for that, whatever you want to do. And if you are running around in your job, let's say you're working in a mall or somewhere, then get some kind of wellness hobby for your body, like a spa or sauna or whatever you prefer. Because there is this paradox that the more you sit, the more tired you are. So obviously, if you sit 8 to 10 hours at your desk and then you're coming home totally depleted, instead of commuting, take a walk if you can. Engage in some physical activity. And I'm not telling you to get a gym membership. Seriously, walking is the best activity that you can do for your body anyway. Your pace, maybe your favorite podcast, or just your thoughts. Just intentionally look around. You know what I mean. And second is the joy hobby. It's the activity that you will simply love. Let me tell you my mistake that I've done with every hobby I got. And that was that I turned it into a hustle. And then inevitably I had to drop that hobby because again, I would burn myself out because I would just see it as a time that I'm spending for profit, as if everything that I do needs to be somehow profitable. Don't make the same mistake. You don't need to turn your hobbies into a hustle. If it comes naturally, perfect, wonderful. Just make sure you will still enjoy yourself at the end of the day. And if you don't know what you love, get a hobby that will feel like you're living your values. So for example, I took a sewing class. I made this top. It's not perfect, but it's a piece of clothing and I made it myself because I know that it brings me closer to being the curator of my environment, and it brings me further of the consumeristic mindset that became so natural these days. Like, look at things people used to build. Things and buildings were full of beauty. Beauty is a human need. It's not something extra. Like, I don't think that everything should be white, gray, and black as it is these days. It's boring. It just makes our brain think less, appreciate less, do something that you will adore. You don't even need to create anything. You can just be wandering in art spaces or in a park appreciating the nature, but expose your brain to some kind of beauty and have this as your hobby to live your joy. And the last one is a learning hobby. And this one is highly optional. Let me tell you why. I have studied and graduated at university during working a 9 to 5. And so all of my weekends, all of my evenings were dedicated to graduate from the university. And I didn't have to do it. I didn't ever see some kind of profit me having a degree. To be honest, in my job, I don't really need it, but I just wanted to do it. But since then, I also tried to learn a third language that I could speak fluently. And I just saw this little hurt ego in me that is trying to pursue this goal because I didn't love the languages. And that's the main problematic part here, because again, I would be spending my evenings and my weekends trying to memorize something and put more information in my brain, and it was depleting me in the same way that I used to felt when studying while working. Assess your motivation and understand why are you doing this, and maybe go learn something that you truly enjoy. And again, not just something that you want to be perceived as, someone who is doing this or who can speak 3 languages, whatever. No one cares. And what I'm trying to say is that you really have to do it for yourself and you have to know your why. And one of the last hard things I had to learn not to want to quit every job is that I needed to prioritize.
Okay.
In every job that I've been, I felt overworked, overloaded. I felt like there's always more. And to be honest, it was partially my fault. I volunteered to do work for others, or I was just fast doing what I was doing, so I took more tasks on my shoulders. I brought myself in those depressive moments where I was asking myself, what am I even doing here? So learn how to prioritize. Take it step by step and brick by brick. Because again, what we see on social media are highlights of someone's life. And so even if someone looks like they have it all together, it's just what they chose to show you. Trust me, there's certainly gonna be some part of their life that is chaos or that is currently not under control. During the years, if you would see my Instagram page, it would be full of traveling and going for brunches and spending time with friends, because that's what I prioritize at the time. But it was also because I was avoiding my future, because I was living in this depressive state of just going to the job, spending time at the job, then maybe hustling afterwards. And I had no direction. I didn't take the time to sit with myself to find out what I really love. So as much as I'm grateful that I could live all those moments and travel all the countries, etc., I'm also seeing it as a form of escaping myself. And these days, my budget for brunches is not even 50 euro a month. And it doesn't mean that I became somehow extremely frugal. No, I just found out what is working for me. And so I can invest in the right areas of my life. And also, I'm thinking about my future. I finally allow myself to see it as a bright place, as a time that can be filled with so many opportunities, instead of something depressive that I will just spend it in my 9 to 5. And that's the very last thing. If you feel the same, if you want to do that, you have to build your escape plan. And that does not mean only financially. Again, that's great, and you have to be very intentional about it. Not to only save for retirement, not to only invest, but to build that number that you know, that number that would be covering you for 6 months to 1 year if something went south. You will be so relaxed.
To take abuse, you got to be able to have people talk crazy about you.
And secondly, you have to be very intentional of why are you building your escape plan. And don't just think of this dreamy fantasy self that wants to live off grid and just wants to be somewhere in a cottage. Choose that cottage. Look at your goals and make them audacious, but also make them concrete enough that you really want to work for them. And once you build that plan, you will see where you need to invest your energy, and you will be also able to say no more easily. So that's everything I've done to help myself on my journey and not to be constantly depressed by my own life, but to actually enjoy it despite I have to provide for myself. And if you're still here, thank you for watching. Don't hesitate to leave a comment, like, or subscribe. And I'm gonna finish today by saying what I saw on someone's tote while I was commuting. You're doing great, baby, and I'm proud of you.